Hey, good to see you, good to see you. I wanted to do a little mini training today about pelvic fascia. So I just finished a course with Eric Franklin, a 3-day course. It was amazing. And I learned so much good stuff, and I want to share some of it with you before it, just to help with my own learning process and solidify it in my own mind. So I want to do a little pelvic fascia mini training today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the layers of the fascia in the pelvis and how everything's connected, and then we'll see what kind of little exercises we can do that helps you really feel the pelvic floor in a new way. And I'm so excited about this. So let's do it. Basically, fascia is the stuff in our body that connects everything. Somebody once described it as like a body stocking. Like if you picture this body stocking, that's goes over your head and over everything. It just covers everything. It goes over all your muscles, through all your muscles. It's everywhere. It's the largest organ in our body. It's everywhere and everything. It hooks us all together. And basically, it's this connective tissue that consists of just 1% cells, and 99% of it is this extracellular matrix. It's like this squishy substance between the cells that's made of collagen and elastin. So collagen is like this strong, we think of collagen and elastin in our skin of our face that, prevents the wrinkles and stuff. And it's the same fibers, but it's just arranged, it's just, in the fascia instead of in your face skin. So collagen has got a lot of strength to it, a lot of tensile strength, and elastin has a ton of elasticity. And these two combined make up our fascia, there's different types of fascia in different parts of the body, but just in general, I'm just gonna talk in general about fascia. So like I said, 1% of this substance is the cells that actually even make the collagen and the elastin and all of that. The rest of it is this extracellular matrix that is the collagen and elastin, and this stuff called ground substance, which is mostly water. And there's this thing called HA. It's hyaluronic. I always say it wrong, but hyaluronic acid. A lot of us know of that for you've heard of it for plastic dermatological injections and things like that. They use it in aesthetic surgery, I believe, but it's actually something that lubricates the fascia and makes everything slide and glide and be slippery. So because so much of this fascia is this extracellular matrix that's water essentially in this HA, it's really, really important to keep this hydration going. It's a water-filled substance, and you keep the hydration going by movement. Motion is lotion. I've always said it, and this course brought it even more home that motion is lotion. You've got to keep moving to keep the materials in the fascia moving and supple and everything working well and gliding properly. Otherwise, it gets really sticky and dense. So whereas we like to think of muscles as getting stronger and I guess we don't want to think of them as getting denser, but fascia we don't want to get more dense. We really actually want it to be like this thin, membranous, kind of glidey, slidey material, not this dense, stuck, sticky material. And that's what happens when we don't move. And so 2 ways to help with the hydration of our fascia is warmth, which you can get by pressure, touch. So massage is great. You can even self-massage. You can get it by heat, applying some heat. And then movement. You're getting movement. Movement is heating things up and it's moving things around and helping with that hydration. So, so I'll leave it at that as far as what it's made out of. So now let's talk specifically, it's all over the body, but let's talk specifically about the pelvic fascia. So in the pelvic area, you have your abdominal cavity and then you have your pelvic cavity underneath. So just think of I have my pelvis. Just think of your pelvis, right? And so think of this area down here. Basically imagine that you had a piece of fondant, the stuff that you cover a cake with, that real weird frosting that I'm not a cake baker, so I don't really know anything about fondant. I don't really know anything about it, but I know that you can drape this frosting stuff kind of over the cake and it just kind of forms and molds to whatever. that's what I think of as the top layer of pelvic fascia. So it's actually the peritoneum, which is the bottom of this lining that lines the abdominal cavity. But the bottom of that peritoneum, it covers the top of the pelvis, and it sort of drapes over everything. You have all your pelvic organs in here, kind of drapes over everything. And then you have your pelvic organs, so your bladder, your uterus, your rectum, all of that. And there is fascia in between and around those organs. So you've got your visceral fascia and your endopelvic fascia that's kind of like padding, like stuffing in between all of these organs and kind of keeping everything in place. And then you have your, there's another, I'm just gonna simplify it a little bit. So then you have your fascia that surrounds the deep pelvic floor muscle, the levator ani. So there's a deep pelvic floor muscle here, and the obturator internus, which is a deep hip muscle, that basically make up the inside of the pelvic floor hammock and the sidewall of the pelvic floor, essentially. So you've got this fascia that is the parietal fascia. It's the fascia of the wall, and the fascia that covers, kind of sandwiches these muscles, okay? Like I said, fascia, it's everywhere. It's in and around and through everything. And then you have the fascia that is part of the deep and superficial perineal pouches, which I'm just gonna, to me, it makes more sense thinking of it as basically the fascia that sort of surrounds the more superficial pelvic floor muscles. So there's a little more to it than that, but I'm still sort of learning about this and trying to tease it out for myself. But it's basically the fascia that surrounds this area here, the front urogenital triangle right here that has your urethra and the vagina and all of, and the muscles that are in this area too. Then on top of all that, the most superficial layer is called Colles fascia. It's a more superficial layer of fascia that kind of covers everything. And of course it allows, the openings, but it just sort of covers the most superficial area. So peritoneum, endopelvic fascia, visceral fascia, muscular fascia, the layers of the muscular fascia, and then that superficial Colles fascia that is on the very outermost part. That's a lot, isn't it? Who knew? And here's the cool part, is that the fascia not only is relegated to just, the pelvic fascia is not just like relegated to inside the pelvic bowl. It attaches to the abdominal fascia and the back fascia, the thoracolumbar fascia, which is an aponeurosis is what it's called. It's like a broad, if you've seen like pictures of skeletons with muscles on them, you've seen like white on the back area, and that's the thoracolumbar fascia. So it's a big aponeurosis is what it's called, a fascia back here. And you can see this little guy right here. This is called the anal-coccygeal ligament. And this is what hooks the coccyx, the tailbone, to your anus. And it's interdigitating with the pelvic floor muscles, the levator ani. And it is continuous, well, this is not holding on. It's continuous with the thoracolumbar fascia that goes up into your back. So they're hooked together. Then we have, the pelvic floor, so it's continuous. And then it goes up through the front, through the abdominals, the external obliques, the internal obliques, the fascia all hooks together. Goes up, 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 up. Then there's more. Then you have the psoas muscles, the hip flexor muscles, which are not on here, but they go from your back through your pelvis to your thigh bone. And they have fascia that all hooks in. And guess what? At the top of the psoas is the diaphragm, the breathing diaphragm. And that fascia hooks into the psoas and the back and all that. So all of this stuff is affecting and impacting one another. The hip flexors, the abs, the back muscles, the breathing diaphragm. And we know all of that from, we know that from our talk of the core canister or the core team of muscles. But the really interesting thing to me is it's not just like individual muscles that work together. I mean, it is. They're muscles that work together, but really what's making them work together is the fascia that connects. I got so excited, I spit just there. It's the fascia that connects everything. So in amongst all that, we also have the inner thigh muscles too that hook in as well. So, I mean, my goodness, literally it's all connected. And then you could follow that train down to your feet. There's nothing that is not really connected as part of this chain of a human being. It is amazing how it all works together. But just bringing to mind this area here and how much I just said, even in those layers of the pelvic floor, layers of the pelvic fascia, there's a lot right there. And so I thought it would be cool today to show you a little training about a way to really help you feel, to feel it a little bit better. So if you're up for it, I really encourage you to stand up and try this with me, because the only way to actually learn is to do. So you can't just sit there and be like, oh, I'll do that later. Believe me, I do that a lot. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do that later, and then I don't. So I really encourage you to stand up and try this. But before you try it, get a visual picture of what we're looking at here. So this is our pelvis, okay? And these are our sitting bones. The ischial tuberosities are sitting bones. And look at how all these pelvic floor muscles are connected in between the sitting bones. In between the sitting bones side to side, especially with this little guy here. And then between the pubic bone and the tailbone, front to back, okay? So just take note of that, and we're gonna go ahead and do some feeling and sensing after we do a little fascia warm-up, because we just talked about how everything's connected. And so if you wanna stand up and do this with me, this is based on the Franklin method warm-up. So we're gonna do it together. It's not my own creation. I can't take credit for it. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna start by just tapping from up the right side of your belly and then down the left. So we're just warming up, because we know that the abdominals, even though we're gonna be working on other areas besides, like tapping on other areas besides our pelvic floor, this is all gonna help our pelvic floor. So our fascia is impacted by tapping, by pressure, by different sensations, but we're gonna start just with tapping and just kind of this gentle pressure, getting things warmed up a little bit. And now go up to your chest and just tap on your chest. There's no like right or wrong, you just do it. You just tap, 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 tap. Besides, this is also stimulating acupressure points, and so it's great for people into the meridians, which I am. And then maybe go up to your face and just tap your jawline a little bit. This is great for stimulating collagen in your face. Basically everywhere there's pressure and sort of like you can impact how your collagen lays down by how you move your body, how you habitually hold your body, and how you stimulate your body. So this is helping a little bit with that, but mainly it's just bringing awareness as well to the area and to the muscles, to the tissues, to the fascia. Okay, now top of your head. And then let's go ahead and go down to the legs. So just do one leg at a time. So tap all the way down and then up. And then come on up. And let's do the other side. So down. And you can rub your leg too, that also works. But just the tapping. And then let's really get that back, because we really saw how the back has that big connection in the thoracolumbar fascia to the pelvic floor. So really getting your back, making it feel really good. You're gonna feel so much less stiff after doing this warm up. If you live somewhere where you woke up not that long ago and you were a little bit stiff, you're gonna feel a lot more mobile. I should have had you test yourself before with some hip circles, but I forgot. So if you do this warm up again, do some hip circles or like touch your toes, see how it feels, and then do this tapping and see how much better you feel. Okay, now stand up and do your arm. And just choose one arm. I'm choosing my right arm. So this is my right arm right here. And I'm just gonna tap it. So all the way front and back. And really, I like to get my bat wings, get those areas there, really tap on those areas. Get your shoulder. Breathe. Try to remember to breathe always. Remember that breathing diaphragm is hooked into the pelvic floor fascia directly. So keep breathing. And then take your hand and stimulate the fascia in a different way. Stimulate all the proprioceptors, the little receptors in your body that tell your body where it is in space. And shake out your arm, and then shake out the same side leg if you can. Same side, arm and leg. Shake it out, shake it out. Breathe. And now take a minute to feel and notice the two sides of your body. And just breathe and tune in. And feel how you feel on that side that you just shook around. So for me, it's my right side. Feel how it feels. Maybe you feel a little bit more settled and dropped on that side, like it feels more grounded. For me, I do. I feel more dropped. I feel more like, yes, like solid, like rooted on that side. And you can also try standing on that leg. So maybe standing on that right, for me, it's my right leg. So I'm lifting my left leg up in the air. You can even lift your right arm up and left knee up and just see how balanced you feel. And then compare it to the other side. So now I'm standing on my left leg, the leg I didn't shake around and the arm I didn't shake around. And it feels more like brittle. So when I stand on the arm and leg that I shook around, it feels better. It feels more like yes. This other side, it feels more like I feel wobblier and it feels more brittle to me. That's just how I describe it. But just see, and maybe you can even take your hands and like sandwich your butt cheek and your front of your thigh and see if it feels a little bit more like lifted and toned compared to the other side. So sandwich, feel if your butt and stuff feels a little bit more lifted and toned. Okay, so now we have to do the other side. So now we tap out our left arm and get it everywhere, get the fascia everywhere, get it moving in different ways, and breathe. And get your shoulder. You can even bend your head away and just kind of like really squeeze in there a little bit, get some pressure, and then take your hand and swipe it down. Swipe, swipe, swipe. Again, there's different types of receptors, nerve elements in the fascia that respond to proprioception and sensations like gliding and pressure in different ways. So you want to do novel stimulations. Now shake out the arm and then shake out that same leg, same side leg. It takes a lot of balance. We're going to try to shake it all out. And then now stand on that leg and just feel, and this is, Eric Franklin says this is the hardest exercise there is just standing and feeling for like 30 seconds or a minute. Just feeling, and you should feel kind of like a buzzing in your body, and maybe you should feel, I feel like my posture is a little bit better. I feel really even between my two sides. They feel really similar, the right side versus the left side. They feel really grounded and solid and similar between the two sides. I can sense in, because I know, and you know too, you're here, you know my channel, you know the pelvic floor. I can feel my pelvic floor. I'm gonna breathe. I'm gonna feel my pelvic floor with the breathing. And if you can't feel the pelvic floor, that's okay. It's just a matter of noticing. Okay, open your eyes and maybe just compare between the two sides. Maybe stand on the leg we just shook out, so the left leg. Oh, it's 222, that's a good sign. 222 where I live. So stand on your left leg. Oh, actually I was tippy there, but stand on your left leg with your eyes open. I had my eyes closed. And now your left leg should feel more solid, just like your right leg. So now both sides feel really solid. They feel really grounded. Butt cheeks feel lifted. Yeah, we're feeling good. Fascia is turned on, like everywhere the fascia is turned on, but it's really turned on in all those ways that connect into the pelvic floor too. So let's now really work that pelvic floor fascia in a way that's different than doing a Kegel, okay? So again, you're thinking of these sitting bones here and the pubic bone in the front. Pubic bone in the front, sitting bones right here, and then the tailbone in the back. So now that you see what we're working with, You're just gonna bend your knees a little bit, like this, and then you're gonna stand up. So you're gonna come down and stand up. That's really the movement. But now if you can think about, really feel with your hands the sitting bones, and picture and feel that as you come back into that little squat, your sitting bones are actually coming apart just a little bit. Then when you stand up, your sitting bones are actually gonna get a little bit closer. The pelvic floor muscles lift just a little bit. So when you sit back, and that's actually a great way to feel your sitting bones anyway, is to sit back and you can feel your sitting bone points kind of stick out into your fingers. So you can feel that. And then when you stand up, you can feel them kind of coming together. Now your butt muscles are gonna squeeze too, but as we just learned, it's all connected. So it's really hard to completely separate out one muscle from the other. So that's okay. I mean, we want to be sensing into the pelvic floor just so we can feel the motion. But if your butt muscles will squeeze, and that's okay. So feel your sitting bones widen apart as you sit back a bit or sit down, and then feel your sitting bones come together closer as you stand up. So just imagine the movement, out and then in, and out and in. So keep going with that. The sitting bones out and then in, and feel that expansion and then the lift as you come up. The expansion release as you come down and the lift as you come up, and just feel that support. And think about, as you're doing it, keep going, breathe steadily. We need to be flexible in our breathing pattern, but I think it's a really nice way to begin training by exhaling as you stand up. Now, think about the layers of the pelvic fascia that I talked about earlier. Think about all of them working together and all of them lifting together. So think about this motion almost initiating from your feet at the bottom and lifting up through your legs all the way up through the levels of the pelvic fascia. So you can even, with your hands, think about shooting it all the way up through the levels of the pelvic fascia as you stand. So it can be really effective to use your hands to mirror what's going on. So if you think of my elbows as like the sitting bones, the ischial tuberosities, and then think of this part as almost like a fountain of the pelvic floor going up through the layers of the fascia as you come up to stand. So I'm gonna try that again. So coming down and then through the layers of the pelvic fascia. So that's just a intro. I'm really curious to know how you all felt about that. If you want to type in the comments, let me know. There's more you can do. You can touch the pubic bone in the front and one sitting bone, and just imagine one side. Just imagine one side of this urogenital triangle, one side of the muscles being more active and turned on. That can be really cool to do by touching your sitting bone and your pubic bone and feeling them kind of come together as you stand up. And then, doing it a few times and then trying it on the other side too. But I'll be doing more of that in my Fem Squad. So for now, I'm gonna leave this at that. And it's very, very, very powerful to feel those layers, to feel those levels. And even if it's just an internal sense, because that's really all it is. But as Eric Franklin says, gosh, I wrote it down somewhere. I don't know where I wrote it, but it was this quote that basically said, he just said, all you need to do is focus on it and the tone goes up. So all you need to do is literally direct your attention and focus to the area that you're wanting to help. And the tone, the natural resting tone in that area will improve. It'll activate. Now, of course, we don't want too much tone. We don't want hypertonicity in the muscles, which would then translate into unhealthy fascia. We don't want excessive tone, but we do want movement in these areas. We want movement so we can maintain the health of the muscles and the fascia. So let me know, how did that exercise feel? I'm gonna see if, okay, good. Be kind to you 8 says, love this, so helpful, hungry to learn more. Awesome. Yes, and Midlife Muddling says, where attention goes, energy flows. I've always loved that statement. It applies to so much more than just muscles and fascia. Clearly, it's definitely a mindset practice. as well. And I love that too. NC Davis 78 says, love it. I'm always stiff when I wake up, and I think this all over tapping will be so helpful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, of course. And it's true. As we get older, unfortunately, just scrolling back to see if there's any comments. Yeah, I think that's it. As we get older, we do naturally, our fascia naturally gets a little bit stiffer, harder, to a little denser. And actually there are things that impact fascia. So this is really interesting, is that stress impacts fascia a lot. So stress impacts fascia, and lack of movement impacts fascia, and age. So we kind of have this perfect storm right now of COVID time. I mean, not to blame it all on this time in history, but it is true that many people have experienced, some people, yeah, we could go into this forever, but for many people, this has been a very stressful time with all of the unknowns. There's been a lot of stress. There's also been a lot more sitting in front of devices, Zoom meetings, Zoom calls, Zoom everything, right? Interactions with people, it's all Zoom or Instagram lives or whatever. So there's been a lot more sitting, a little less movement for many people. And then heck, we're all getting older every day. So you kind of have this perfect storm of reasons that it's really, like, now more than ever is a very important time to think about your fascia and let's think about your body. It's all about feeding your body and nourishing your body with movement. I've said forever that motion is lotion. And then I know that I learned this from, I think it was from Katie Bowman, Nutritious Movement, I think, that she says, she calls it movement snacks. And I love that concept of feeding your body movement snacks throughout the day. So helpful and so important. And I've always talked about the benefit of the 30-30 rule. So every 30 minutes that you're sitting in one position, stand up. I mean, even just that little exercise we did, just sit to stand, just a little tiny mini squat. It doesn't have to be much. It strengthens and tones all of your pelvic floor fascia, all of the muscles and the fascia, everything that's in the pelvic bowl, your thighs, your hips, your breathing diaphragm, I mean everything. And if you really want to localize it to that part of your body, put your hands in your armpits so you can't help with your arms. So you can't use your arms to kind of counterweight you and help swing you forward. I know you can't see my arms right now, but put your hands in your armpits and that will help you isolate it to your hips, legs, and pelvic floor. But just every 30 minutes, 30 seconds of doing something to counteract, to extend, to open up, to move, and especially move in unusual ways. I actually did a dance party this morning, and I was like, this is so healthy to do a dance party where you're just moving your body in weird ways that you wouldn't normally move, because every time you do that, you're stimulating your body to create new collagen in new places. That's like, oh yeah, we need to be here, we need to be there. It's not getting stuck and like crunched up in this one position like this. It's like free flowing and expressive. So if I could encourage you to do anything, it would be to dance and to just move more often. Pelvic Floored says, love the idea of doing this each morning. Yeah, it's so wonderful. And Be Kind to You says, focus. Wow, it always does seem to apply to everything. Yep, totally. Pelvic Floored, does this method have much to say on perineal trauma? I was so late to massaging my episiotomy scar, but it helps. So, in the course that I went through, he was pretty specific actually not to go too in depth into many specific issues such as pelvic floor, like perineal trauma, or even prolapse. He really didn't get specifically into different conditions, but absolutely. And you can see that in my interview with Anna Kroll, which is on my YouTube channel, is part 1. And if you want part 1 and part 2, check out my Lift program, my Lift bundle, or any of my Lift programs. There's a recording of part 1, which goes even more in depth into exactly what we're talking about. Everything Anna talks about with the biotensegrity model and how everything is connected and how massage helps is speaking to this fascia stuff. Like, it definitely is. There's nothing different from what I was saying than what she was saying. So yeah, absolutely, it would help. And Midlife Muddling says, definitely adding this to my ever increasing routines. Isn't that funny how we all have, And Be Kind to You says, determined not to let age get to my mind. Absolutely, absolutely. And using these different tools and playing with them. I guess I'll leave us with that. Just having this lightness of spirit whenever we learn something new. Kind of even like my running club that I started us off by talking about. It's not like trying to just add one more thing to your to-do list. Oh no, now I have to do lift, and I have to do my pelvic floor, my pelvic fascia tapping routine, and I have to do running club, and I have to meditate, and I have to eat well, and oh my gosh, it's totally exhausting and overwhelming. But I think if you just take what works for you, and just know that doing something is better than doing nothing. And just knowing that these are all just little tools in your toolboxes. And Sharon from Pelvic Floor, you know, it's sprinkles. Sprinkles. It's like you have your cupcake. That's your basis. That's like the basic things that you do in your life to keep yourself healthy. You know, you brush your teeth, you take a shower, you eat food. Then you have the frosting, which is like your self-care activities that are non-negotiables. Okay, so every day I like to go for a walk. I like to do that. It keeps me well. I like to go for a walk, and I need it for my mental health. I'm actually speaking about myself. Then there's the sprinkles, and you can decorate your cupcake any way you want. You always have the cupcake, you always have the frosting, but the sprinkles might look different here and there. You could have different sprinkles one day from the next. You could decorate it with sparkly sprinkles one day and little stars and hearts another day. Like, it doesn't matter. If you have this toolbox, like this huge drawer of sprinkles to choose from, and if you go at it with a lightness of spirit and like, okay, I want to, for this 5-week period, I'm going to do 5 weeks of running club. That's going to be my sprinkle for now. But it doesn't have to stay with me forever. I don't have to do running club for the rest of my life. Or, you know, right now I have lift and running club. Okay, there's 2 sprinkles. I'm going to keep doing those for now, but they're not forever. I'm going to take what I love from those programs and I'm going to carry them with me, but then I'll add new sprinkles on top. Some things will go, some things will stay. New sprinkles will come in, new sprinkles will go out. It's like this ever changing sprinkle-a-thon, and it's super fun. So I like to just remind you that while it can feel overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, another thing to add to my routine, if you make it fun and keep it light, and just remember that it always needs to be the things that feel good for you. Because you might try a sprinkle for a while and be like, not working for me. This sprinkle's not what I liked. I know this one tastes yucky. I'm gonna let that one go. And you try something else. So I hope that helps you. I know that I used that with a group of clients that went through my Transcend program, and we really enjoyed sprinkles. So yeah. All right, well, I have officially been talking for quite some time. This was quite a long training, but I hope that it was helpful to talk about the pelvic floor fascia, the layers of the pelvic floor fascia, the levels, and then that full body tapping routine to help wake things up and stimulate how everything is connected. And then that particular exercise that was more just like a little mini squat, but really helped you tune in and think of the way the bones move and how everything inside of those bones moves too as you are doing the movement. Remember, just picture that like little fountain upward through the levels of the fascia. It's amazing and it's so helpful. And while I still think Kegels do have their place, I mean, my goodness, I have a whole Kegel camp. This is a much more functional way to move your pelvic floor than just a Kegel, okay? So just keep that in mind. I think that Kegels are helpful for training, like, you know, sometimes you need to know how to just squeeze your pelvic floor. Like when you really have to pee and you are running through an airport, or like, I don't know, like you're running, you need to get to a bathroom and you're like, oh my God, I've got to hold it in. Then it can be very helpful to have an extra layer of pelvic floor protection by knowing how to really activate those muscles. Or again, when you're gonna cough or sneeze, or when you really need extra attention, in your pelvic floor because you're gonna lift something heavy, it's good to know how to turn those muscles extra on. And Kegels are great for that, but Kegels are not everything, and more functional ways of training are what I teach in Lift, absolutely. But it's also what we just went through in this little mini course, practically, little mini training. Okay, bye guys, talk to you later.